Hello, you're not getting a pretty background for me today because this is where the light is and priorities are what they are. Hello, I'm Lily. Welcome to the Ladybug Laboratory. It's been a bit, but I'm back with a completely different approach than I have done in the past, and I'm pretty excited for it. So here we go. So I've been thinking a lot about this whole phenomenon that hopefully I'm not alone in, where you go to the fridge and you stare at a fridge full of food and then you go, there's nothing to eat. Or you look in your closet and you say, there's nothing to wear. And there's this fundamental human experience of existing in this world filled with books to read and shows to watch and things to learn and art to create, and it's all for free, and I just go, there's nothing to do. Right? And there's something so universal about staring at abundance and seeing lack. There's infinite options, and it's more than our brain can comprehend. I mean, if you know anything about math, you know about exponential growth, and the more options that you have, it very quickly just like skyrockets until it's more than we can comprehend, and our brains just shut down. And I've been thinking about that study that's cited all the time. I'm sure you've heard of it, of the kids in the playground, and how if it's just like a playground in the middle of nowhere, then they just sort of play on the playground. But if there's like a containment structure, like a fence or a boundary of some sort, then they incorporate that boundary into their play. And their play becomes more creative and more expansive, and they expand to fill the whole playground rather than just playing on the swing set and the slides in a more prescriptive way. And it got me thinking about how so many art movements are essentially creating a fence around what you do. Like pointillism, right? It's this idea that like you can't blend your paints. It is these tiny dots of unblended paints to create this vast picture. And I mean, Irish step dance, right? You don't move your arms. It's this beautiful dance with just your legs. And I mean, vaporwave, the musical music on the internet is making music out of TV and commercials and elevator music. And how many truly unique things come out of creating structure for ourselves, and how so much of, for me, what I really struggle with in life is a lack of structure. And that's been really weighing on me recently, how I will often have an evening where maybe I could get some sewing or some knitting done, and I come into my studio and I stare at the dozens of projects I could be working on, and I'm hit with the overwhelm. And I turn around and walk out. It's analysis paralysis. There's too many options. There's too many things I could do, and I have to make a decision, and there's no structure, and it's just an infinite exponential list of possibilities. And I shut down and I leave. I don't know if you can hear that siren. I hope it's not a big deal. So I started thinking, like, how can I build a structure for myself? Because I wait for this motivation to hit, right? And part of the way that art and creating and creativity works is that you have to sort of foster it like a muscle. And if I keep just waiting for it to hit and sitting in the miasma of my depression, essentially, then nothing's going to change. So how do I create this structure? How do I create something to get my juices flowing and then give me a direction to go in and let me go? Because what I don't want is homework. What I don't want is something that, I say to myself, well, I'm going to do this. And then it ends up feeling like taxes. It ends up feeling like another thing that I'm not doing and not accomplishing, and another way that I have failed myself. That's not what I want. And I started thinking about how fun it is to roll dice. Around that time, Veronica of Knit One Per Two on Instagram posted that she was doing this roll to craft thing. Just where she had like 2 index cards. And one was like 6 different types of crafting, and then one was like 6 different ways of interacting with it. And she would just roll on the first one and then roll on the second one. And that would be what she did. And I just thought that was so fun. And I talked to her about it, and I said, like, hey, would it be okay with you if I sort of adapted this and ran with it? And she was like, yeah, I love that. So I did. And I may have gone a little bit overboard. So I came up with 25 categories of thing to do. And I was thinking about it. I want them to be a little bit out of my comfort zone, but again, not a chore, not taxes. I want to, because my brain is only going to want to roll the dice if it looks at the list and goes, yeah, I'm probably going to I'm going to like what I get, right? It's only going to roll the dice if it's excited to roll the dice. So I didn't it was really tempting to fill the list with like things that I wanted to make myself do, like decluttering and cleaning and organizing my craft supplies. But I had to like really work to like make sure that at least half of it, I ended up making a lot more, but like as I was thinking about it, I was like, no, I want this to be something that I'm excited for, that my brain will look at this and see it as something to be excited about. And you'll see that a lot of them can be a lot of different things depending on the mood that I'm in, but I'll get there. So I also wanted them to be specific enough that I didn't get that sort of like analysis paralysis. So I didn't put something like sewing on my list, because that might be specific enough for you, but it's not for me, because I will come in to my studio and I will go, great, I have 25 sewing projects I can work on. Which one? Or I will just keep working on the same one that I've been working on and never get to the ones that I want to rediscover in this process. Or I'll walk in here and then just walk out because analysis paralysis. I didn't put knitting for the same reason. But I wanted them to be vague enough that if I rolled it and it wasn't like something that I didn't feel tied to something specific, right? So like, for instance, I didn't put any specific projects on here, because like, what if I rolled to do a specific shawl that I couldn't find the beads for at the time? Well, then all of a sudden, that's what I have to do, is find beads. And it's another barrier that I have to overcome in order to do this. So the way that I'm going to do this is I am going to roll the dice once a week on Thursdays. And that way it'll give me Thursday to prepare for. Starting Friday, it's going to be my week. And I'm going to, during that week, at some point, work on something from what I rolled. So to give you an example of something on my list, one of them is a scrap yarn project. Or scrap yarn, right? So that could be working on my scrap yarn blanket. It could be starting something new with scraps that I have, with like a yarn that I've used for a different project. It could be organizing my scraps, right? It could be a lot of things. Anything that includes scraps. It doesn't have to be my scrap yarn blanket. So the idea is that it gives me a category, something to run with, but it's not hyper specific. It's not going to lock me into something if for whatever reason I can't do that this week. So here is my list. And I'm going to talk you through them. So the first chunk of them are all yarn related things. So start or plan something new. Pretty self-explanatory. Something that is in deep hibernation. So maybe a project I haven't worked on or looked at in a while. I don't have to work on it, but take it out, assess it, figure out what in the world I want to do. And that's the other thing, is that like, I don't have to work on these all week. I have to, at some point that week, maybe it's just for 20 minutes, maybe it's a whole evening, maybe I do end up working on it all week, but it gives me like getting over that hump and getting back into being creative and creating art, right? Okay, so deep hibernation, something quick and dirty. And that could be like a single square in my scrap blanket, or it could be like the last 5 rows, or like weaving in the ends on something that I'm almost done with. Or like there's a whole bunch of things that I want to make that are tiny, like tiny amigurumi, stuff like that. Something long-term. I have a lot of like long-term things that I want to work on, like a year-long book tracking project, stuff like that. Something for me and something as a gift. Those are pretty self-explanatory, but you can also see how like I'm working on all sorts of different things that fall into that category, right? Like a beaded shawl for my mother-in-law, a pair of basic socks for my brother. Those are very different types of projects, but they would both fall into as a gift. And so it gets me going somewhere, and then I can pick where I go with that. An intricate technique. Again, that could be a bunch of things. It could be cables, it could be a neat seaming thing, it could be steeking, which is at the end, right? Beads, whatever. And then determine the fate. This is one that I kind of have to explain. I have a lot of projects that either I started at some point when I was in a different point of life, or I've just stopped working. Like there's some that I haven't worked on since 2014. And I have to kind of look at them and assess, am I ever going to finish this? So pick one of those and either decide I'm going to finish it and work on it, or decide I'm not going to finish it and figure out what I'm going to do with it, whether I frog it or pass it on to somebody else or whatever. Okay, so then we get into these sewing projects. Oh, I'm leaning on the wrong side. The list is over there. A lot of it is the same stuff. So start or plan something new, something that's in deep hibernation, quick and dirty, long term. For me, as a gift, scrap projects, those are all the same categories, but just for fabric. Then a garment or a quilt. So those are kind of like the 2 main categories of things that I sew. So breaking those out is good. And then this last section is essentially like other crafts that I often just like don't remember that I do. And kind of like an excuse to get them out. So cross stitch, mending, spinning, journaling, and diamond painting. And then the last 2 are organizing and inventorying yarn and organize or inventory fabric. And that could be decluttering, but it also could be like sorting my scraps into colors so I know how to use them. All sorts of things. And then I made a spreadsheet. So here's how the spreadsheet works. I'm just gonna move over here so that I know that I'm on this side of the screen and you're seeing the spreadsheet over here. You might just be seeing the spreadsheet and not seeing my face. That's fine too. So when I roll the dice, I'm going to be rolling a percentile die, which if you don't know is 2 10-sided dice, and one of them has like 1 through 0, there's 0 being 10. And then one of them has like 60, 70, 80, stuff like that. So what you do is you roll both at the same time. And like if you get like the 20 and the 7, that would be 27, right? So that's what I'm going to be rolling. So it's 1 through 100 is essentially what we're getting. So in my case, I have 25 items. And that means that I have made it so that 4 different numbers in 1 through 100 match up to like the letter A, and 4 of them match up to the letter B, right? Because my 25 items are lettered A through Y. So 4 match up to A, 4 match up to B, etc. So here's how this spreadsheet works. you fill in this key with all of your items and their corresponding letter, A through however many you get up to. You do have to start with A. That's the only tricky thing. You can all handle it. Then you check off how many items you have. The options are 25, 20, 15, 12, 11, 8, or 5. And I can add other options. If anybody wants other options, it's relatively easy to add them. But those are the ones that I have. So then you go over to the log page and like, let's say you rolled that 27 that I mentioned earlier. You just put in 27 and it will automatically update and tell you what letter that is. Now, that letter is going to be different depending on which number of options you have, right? Like if you have 8 options, 27 is going to be something different than if you have 25 options. So that's why you had to check it off in the key page, because through formulas, this cell will figure out, based on what you checked off and what number you put in, what letter to put here. And then this cell over here will auto update with whatever your letter for that is. So if 27 is a letter B for you, then this cell will update with your B category. I don't know what's on the screen right now, so enter in whatever number you're seeing on the screen. And then you can go to the statistics page where it'll show you in this like grid here, it shows you what numbers you've actually rolled. And then on the left here, it shows you what categories you've rolled, because the numbers, you know, correspond to different categories. So you may have rolled like 4 different numbers, but they were all B, for instance, which would be kind of interesting. Because again, I'm a little obsessed, so I made this spreadsheet. So if you would like to join me, you can. I have linked the spreadsheet below. You do have to make your own copy. You can't just write in this spreadsheet. So you have to open it and then make a copy. The first page is directions for how to use it. And then you can just fill in whatever your categories are and it'll update. You might have a little ugly leftover thing that I'm showing you right now. If you have less than 25 categories, you can just delete those. That's fine. And you could join in with me. What I'm going to be doing is on Thursdays, I'm going to be posting what I roll on both Instagram and as a text post on YouTube starting tomorrow. So it'll be very exciting. And yeah, I wrote a Substack about how to think about picking your categories. Here are some possible ideas. You could do categories for occasion, maybe something for a birthday or something seasonal, or, you know, formal or casual, or for holidays, something like that. You could do something for a location, like if it's a decoration or a garment, or more specifically, like which room is it going for, or which body part, or which recipient, whatever. The purpose, such as it could be more specific to your craft. Like if you do quilting, you could do like wall hanging, couch quilt, bed cover, stuff like that. Or it could be within crafts. So, or within multiple crafts. Like, such as like the different ways that you make items. So maybe you have a purpose like for warmth, or for decoration, or whatever. You could also have facets of the project themselves. So the medium, the technique, the level of difficulty, stuff like that. Facets of your relationship to the project. So languishing, recently started, almost done, something you're making up as you go along, whatever. What type of materials the project is using, like weights of yarn, types of fabric, specialty threads, all sorts of stuff like that. And then things you put off or avoid or need justification to do. So annoying finishing steps, organizing or cataloging scraps to use in fun projects, projects that are outside of your comfort zone or your usual medium, planning how to use tricky or specialty materials, stuff like that. Things that you just need like a little motivation to do, but you actually do, like you're excited to do them. And kind of general vibes, anything that floats your boat. Like, you could just do something that makes me really excited. Like, you could do that. It's totally up to you. It's your list, right? So yeah, I would love to have you join us. Post on Instagram if you are joining, or let me know. Send me a DM. I would love to have that. I'm gonna be posting tomorrow on Instagram with whatever I roll. I'm so excited. And on YouTube with whatever I roll. And then I will also, since I'm going to start working on it on Friday, next Friday, I'm going to have a video about what I worked on and how it went, and a post with my new role for the next week. So yeah. All right, I hope you're all doing well. Have a fabulous time of day wherever you are, and I love you all so much. Bye.